Hey guys, what's up? It's the Merc here from Poolshed Games, and this is going to be a bit of an RPG review talk video. And this is the current RPG that I am sort of hooked on, which is Dystopia Rising. I have yet to actually get into it with my players and play the game. However, I have made 2 characters for this game, and I have helped 4 people now to create a character for it as well. So what I want to talk to you about today is character creation. The first thing I will say is character creation in this is much different than in D20 systems. How best to put this? D20 systems, usually you have some kind of a class that you're going to play as. You're going to play as a fighter, a barbarian, a rogue, or if you're using D20 Modern, which some people like, some people don't, you're going to be a fast hero, smart hero, tough hero, whatever. In Dystopia Rising, the only thing that really is set in stone is the strain of humanity that you pick. Aside from that, you make the character the way you want it to be. I like this system. I've always liked this system of you buy your skills, you buy like personality traits, and you buy personality defects to make the character how you want it to be. Like if you want to be a quick talking gunslinger, you can do that because you buy the pistol traits and personality traits. Whereas in like D20 Modern or even in D&D, you'd have to kind of mix 2 classes together, and sometimes you're a little restricted in following the class the class table. However, in Dystopia Rising, there are different strains of humanity, and that is the first thing you have to pick. And each one is slightly different. I'm going to talk a little bit about each as we go here. This is the first one. They're called Accessorites, and they are kind of your religious warriors. Accessorites. They're kind of your religious warriors. They have a lot of bonus, each strain gives you 2 advantages, 2 disadvantages, racial disadvantages and advantages. The Accessorites have a boost to using faith-based skills, and they can avoid critically failing faith-based survival checks, which is helpful if you want to play like a cleric-y type with miracles and powers. Their drawbacks, though, are they're very proud of their faith. They prominently display it, and they can never knowingly break the tenets of their religion. So you're basically playing kind of like a paladin type character if you choose that strain. You have the Iron Slaves, who are probably, I think they're one of the cooler strains of humanity in here. Their story is they developed to have really resilient immune systems. They're very big, they're brawny, they have a slight glow to them. The downside of this is a lot of the other civilizations capture them and use them as slaves in the mines. And that's the one thing. This is a post-apocalyptic game. They are things like drug addiction, slavery, those kind of things that feature prominently in a post-apocalyptic game. And their advantages and drawbacks, if they're working along another character and they're trying to craft, they provide a +2 bonus. And they get a +2 bonus whenever they make carrying or lifting based survival checks. They can haul a lot of gear. In a way, they're sort of like the dwarf idea of brawny, well built. However, they lose dice when they're contesting appearance-based checks because of their unique appearance, and they constantly glow a dull red. So you can't hide at night so much. The next you have the Lascarians. To me, this is a really cool strain. They're the people that when the nukes fell, as the remnants of humanity were trying to defeat the zombie virus, they went underground. They're the people that went into the bunkers and the vaults and never came out. They're sort of cannibals. They're kind of like a darker side. They're humanity's underbelly. And I think they're a really cool idea. They have a natural resistance to all forms of disease and poison, giving them bonuses against it. And they're naturally sneaky from being in tunnels and underground. Now, their drawbacks are they don't handle bright lights well, and they're a little unsettling to surface dwellers. So that's kind of the Lascarians. And this is probably one of the funniest ones. It's the strain called Americans. And the reason this is funny is they've basically created the stereotypical good and bad stereotypes of Americans, boiled them down into a strain of humanity that evolved after the nuclear war with the undead because they had so many chemicals and preservatives and things in their bodies that it changed them in this way. Some people would probably not like that. Some people would be able to get a chuckle out of it. All depends on how you sit on these type of things. Their advantages, they're really good at like fighting in hand to hand or using guns. And they get bonuses against being intimidated and being made afraid. Their drawbacks, though, if they critically fail, if they fail a knowledge survival check, they critically fail, and they succumb very quickly to the infection, which is a mechanic in the game that we'll talk about a little later on when I get deeper into the character creation. You have the natural ones, who are very much like they are like the Lascarians. They separated themselves from society, but they went to live in a fully natural way, like hippie communes and like kind of like Native American feel to them. They get a big advantage when you use primitive ranged or melee weapons like bows, daggers, knives, and they get incredible resistance to the infection. However, they can't use technology well, and they're prideful and superstitious. They carry a piece of their home with them at all times. If they lose that, it gives them minuses. You have the purebloods. Ugh. They are the remnants of the pure strain humanity. They're not mutated at all. They are like us right now. They get a bonus on like charisma, like appearance, and they're very good at making deals and dealing with money. However, they don't handle radiation well, and once they start losing resolve, they become kind of weaker in general. This one's funny. You have the Red Star, which I guess is a nice counterpoint to the Americans. They are a strain that developed that follows the teachings of Marx and Lenin. They believe in, communism. I don't know if this really deserves to be its own strain. I think this would be more of like a be better off as like a tenant, like the religions in the later part of the book. But I mean, I understand it was something different, and it adds to the flavor of the game. They get bonuses to working together with other players, and they get a bonus because they're a hardy people. They cannot gain benefits from faith-based powers, and they're not very good with money, which kind of ties into the idea of communism with atheism and a state-run economy that they didn't have to deal with. Remnants, they're a cool kind of idea because they're the lone wolves. They're the remnants of groups of strains, like they might be American remnants or whatever, that like one or two of them survived, and they've developed their own kind of culture and their own kind of ideals because they were on their own. They can blend in very easily with any culture, and they can basically pick. They get a free skill point, which is cool. They suffer slight health problems and mutations, are a little weaker, and they tend to have addictions, so they get that drawback automatically without getting any bonus points for it. You have retrogrades, which the best way I can think to describe the retrogrades is the ghouls from Fallout. If you haven't played Fallout, they're radiated humans who should have died but haven't because their bodies have developed a resistance or a relationship with radiation to keep them alive. They are super resistant to radiation, and they're very tough when they have to make endurance survival skill checks. Drawbacks is they lose dice and appearance checks because, well, they look like zombies. And they have a -4 to blending in. And some of the background for this is a lot of times if the player character plays a retrograde, they have to wear a mask of some variety to even be allowed into settlements that aren't retrograde or Lascarian, because people don't know if they're zombies or not, and zombies are a big problem in this game world. You have the rovers. The best way I can think to give them the archetype is they're a lot like the Road Warrior, Mad Max type, more like the people that were inside the village with the oil derrick than outside, but they could be either one. They get a bonus to navigation and scrounging checks, and they do not get fatigued like other characters do. The drawbacks are if they're not out on the road and they're not traveling, they start taking minuses to their abilities, and they have a very strong sense of pride. So if they're slighted, they take minuses to that. And there are two more, which you have the Vegasians, which I don't really know the best way to describe. They're the people that have come from out west around Vegas. They're very good at doing odds and crunching numbers, and they're very good at telling stories. So they're kind of like the charismatic ones in this setting. But they make poor first impressions, and they always try to push their luck. So they're always looking to get the next big deal, make the next big break. And the last one in the main book are the Yorkers, who they come from the remnants of New York City. So they're very a dystopian kind of like gang punks in a way. They get a bonus for fighting in combat. They have a hard time. They have an easier time discerning if someone's telling the truth or not because they're very suspicious of people. Drawbacks are they have a short temper, which leads them to getting into trouble, and they tend to be know-it-alls that have a hard time accepting help from others. So that's kind of the big defining attribute of your character and who or what they are. You're going to pick one of those strains, and that's really going to lay down the groundwork of where your character's coming from. After that, you buy your building blocks, which building blocks are just like stats for D&D. There's 7 primary ones. There's agility, which is how good are you at moving and shooting. Appearance, which is pretty self-explanatory. Brawn is how strong you are. Endurance, pretty self-explanatory. It's kind of like Constitution from D&D. Knowledge, how book smart you are. Luck is an interesting skill that I really don't think has a analog in another system. And wiles is your wisdom, how street smart, how savvy you are there. And when you make your character, you get 14 points to spend on these skills. And you start with a point in each skill for free. And you can take any of the skills from 1 to 5, and each pip you buy costs 1 point. So if you take your character up to 5, you've spent 4 points because you got 1 for free. At first level, in the beginning, you can only take a stat up to 6. That jump from 5 to 6 costs you 2 points. So if you take a stat to 6, it costs you 6 points. Pretty simple, pretty easy system, and it lets you kind of do what you want with your character. Some things you have to consider when building your character, though, are your secondary statistics that are derived from the ones you buy points for. Your health is your endurance and your brawn times 2. So if you want to be a lot of hit points, you're going to want a high endurance and a high brawn. Your defense is your wiles and your agility divided by 2. So if you want a high defense, you want to be pretty street smart, and you want to be pretty quick on your feet. If you want a high resolve, it's knowledge plus wiles divided by 2. Your infection rating, which is very important, because I'll explain that in probably a later video, is it equals your lowest building block. And the easiest way to think about infection is it's kind of like fate points in like Fantasy Flight's Dark Heresy games or any games like that, because you can spend it for certain bonuses. Movement is your agility and your endurance, which makes sense. Fatigue is your endurance and your wiles. And your starting funds, you don't get a lot of money to begin with in this game unless you cater your character to be that way, is your luck plus knowledge times 10. So if you don't kind of plan for that, you can be short on cash. There's ways around that, but sometimes they're not the best. After that, you buy skills for your character. And now your skills kind of define what you can do in the game. You get 20 points to spend on skills, and you have skills like disguise, escape artist, farming. The cool thing is, like firearms, you have to pick firearms. Are you good with pistols? Are you good with rifles? Are you good with artillery? Or whatever the gun you want to use, are you good with that type of gun? So, and the way things work in this game is you get dice pools. I'll get into it a little bit later on when I talk about the system itself and the mechanics. But you take whatever your skill number is and whatever your building block number is, add them together, and that's how many dice you get to roll for the combat round, or the check. And last but not least, you have what they call endearing qualities, which are advantages and disadvantages. You start off with 5 advantage points. That's not nearly enough. You're going to want more. To get more, you can take up to 10 points in disadvantages. Disadvantages are things like your character is in debt, your character is being hunted by someone, your character is a liar, has an addiction. It's things like that. Funnily enough, debt is a way to get more money at first in the beginning, because you pick which level of debt you want, and you get 10% of the debt you owe as starting currency. But that means the DM is free to throw bounty hunters, slavers, debt collectors, all those kind of fun things at you in an attempt to collect that debt. And then you get advantages, which are usually, good things. Like you can get your own safe house. You can be hardier against faith-based attacks. You can have a special weapon that you're good with. You can have training in armor. All kinds of things like that that you pick to build the character the way you want it to be. And that is character creation. For me, when I made my characters, the 2 characters that I made just to test out the creation system, it didn't take me very long at all. It was a pretty quick process. The nice thing about that is, but I went into it with the concept for my character in mind. If you don't have a concept for your character in mind, it's going to take you a little bit longer to make your character in this game. It's not like in Pathfinder or D&D or D20 Modern or the Star Wars game where you pick a class and that class kind of gives you a framework of how to build your character. In this, you just kind of like make your character on your own. And I really like that. Some people won't, but I do. Now, the next thing I'm going to get into with another video will be the mechanics, how the game works, what do you need to hit, how do you do damage, how do you take damage. That's probably going to be another big kind of chunk of a video like this one is. And probably the last video I'm going to do on this is talk about just some of the things that make it delightfully post-apocalyptic, like the religions. I think the ones that they've created are really, really good. The setting itself in general, like enemies you're going to fight, and the background, the lore they have given you for the world. So this is going to end up being about a 3-video series. Hopefully you guys like this video. If you've been thinking about getting into Dystopia Rising, hopefully this video can give you a little bit of an idea of at least what making a character is going to be like. Because I know, aside from the guys over at Roleplay Roulette, I had a hard time finding anything on this game. And hopefully this video can be a little bit more helpful to people that are looking for information on this game. So I'm going to go. If you guys liked the video, give us a thumbs up down in the comments, leave a comment, subscribe, share us with your friends, and we'll see you next time here at Bullshit Games.